In this video, I'm going to explore Ludwig Wittgenstein's philosophical insights. In our last video, we have touched upon his several notions of his later phase of philosophical thought. Language game, family resemblance, form of life, rule of grammar. We have touched upon these philosophical notions. Let's recapitulate all of this very briefly. Language game was an effort to account for the countless multiple uses of the same word, their lack of boundaries, their unfixedness. Actually, language game is a more fluid, diversified, and activity-oriented perspective on language. He makes us aware that we should look the multiple uses that an word has. So we sometimes fail to see that a word can have varieties of uses, just like tools in a toolbox. He has given a very beautiful analogy. We do not fail to see varieties of uses of a tool in a toolbox, but we do not see the countless numerous uses that a word has. We use a word in a very different ways, in different contexts, in different activities. And why we fail to see that? Because of the uniform appearance that mislead us in thinking that a word must be having a core in which its meaning is located. So Wittgenstein rejected complete dogmatism, and a transition from dogmatism towards anti-dogmatism is very conspicuous in his later phase of philosophical thought. Family resemblance is a very suitable analogy to capture the network, the connection among varieties of uses of the same word. He warns us that there is no reason we should not think in that way, that the meaning, there is an essential core in which the meaning of a word is located. Rather, we should travel with varieties of uses and their similarities, dissimilarities, overlapping and crisscrossing. And also this excavates the lack of boundaries of different uses of a word and their distance from the exactness. And these he intended to address through the analogy called family resemblance. The rationale behind his juxtaposition of family and resemblance has a connotation. In a family, among the family members, one may find that there are similarities as well as dissimilarities. So some may have similarities in terms of their facial feature, like some may have the structure of nose quite similar to their parents. Our sibling sister can have the similar sort of eyes, like their parents, like especially their mother. So each and every member of a family have similarities, also dissimilarities with the rest of the members of the family. This is what is called family resemblance. Similarly, in language, there are countless uses of the same word. And how these uses are connected? They are connected in such a way that there are similarities as well as dissimilarities. They are overlapping and crisscrossing. So we should travel with the network of interconnected uses. We should travel interconnected networking of similarities and dissimilarities, overlapping and crisscrossing. So there is no certain strict watertight boundary, as well as sometimes it may happen that there is a long distance of the exactness. That means there is nothing, no essential core in which the meaning of a word is located. He is emphasizing on this point again and again. And and language game is very much a part of a broader context called form of life. Form of life is constantly changing. It's contingent, actually dependent upon culture, history, and it's like the domain of shared human activity. Form of life determines the rule of grammar of ordinary language. Rule of grammar here, rule of grammar shows that language game, each and every language game. What is language game? In in philosophical investigations, Wittgenstein has given an astonishing list of language games, like cooking, fishing, and making an hypothesis, solving a riddle, philosophical riddle. All these are language game. Okay, and each language game is rule governed. So he is exposing the rule governed character of language game. But here one thing is to be remembered, that the rule does not entail the strict and definite systems of rules. Rather, rule refers to the conventional nature of human activity. How conventionally rules are used. There is no strict, no definite system of rules. Rather, it is based on the convention. And rule of grammar, Wittgenstein in his philosophy, rule of grammar is very broader, is very different from the conventional understanding of rule of grammar. Here in his hand, it has got a very comprehensive perspective. Rule of grammar suggests what type of creature we are, what kind of activity we do, what form of life we live. So these constitute the holistic approach, and Wittgenstein call it rule of grammar, which govern each and every language game. So form of life is basically a shared human activity, and form of life determines the rule of grammar of each language game. And now he is giving private language argument. Private language is not possible according to Wittgenstein. What is a private language, and why he is mentioning private language argument in this context? Private language is a language in that a mark or a sound refers to the immediate private sensation of the speaker. And this is not understandable to anybody else except the speaker in question. So private language is not possible. For Wittgenstein, Wittgenstein asserts that in order for a mark or a sound, written mark or a verbal sound to be meaningful, in order for a sign to be functional or meaningful, it must be possible in principle to be judged by the criteria of correctness. It must subject it to the public standard and criteria of correctness. Otherwise, it cannot be meaningful. Since private language refers to the immediate experience, private experience of the speaker, and which is not intelligible to anybody else except the speaker who is using the mark in order to refer to his private sensation, this is not at all genuine, meaningful, or functional. So he is refuting private language argument on the basis of these reasons. Private language is not possible. Now he is mentioning the task of philosophy, the most important part of his philosophical investigations. So far, philosophy has been seen as supplying theory, as building theoretical structure. Traditionally, philosophy has been like that. Now Wittgenstein is saying that we need to clear up the philosophical language so far traditionally has been built. Now what is the task of philosophy? The task of philosophy is neither to explain nor to give definition or deduce anything. The task of philosophy to put everything open to our eyes, open to us, nothing to explain nor to deduce. Since everything is open to our view, nothing to explain. So the task of philosophy is to show the fly the way out of fly bottle. This analogy he is using. Imagine some flies are captured in a fly bottle, in a bottle. Now they are perplexed. They are not able to find out the way out of the fly bottle. They are roaming around, they are buzzing around the bottle. Now the task of philosopher is to show the fly way out of the fly bottle. Our condition is like the flies stuck in a bottle. Like we are stuck in philosophical puzzles or riddles, philosophical questions, the pseudo-philosophical question. So the task of philosopher is to show the fly, that means us, the way out of the fly bottle, how to resolve this philosophical question. This is the task. So philosophy is itself a therapy. So the task of philosophy is solely therapeutic, and the form of our philosophical problem is I am not finding out my way about. So the aim is to show the way out, the fly the way out of the fly bottle. Wittgenstein is of the opinion that philosophical problems are not at all genuine problems. They are results of mixing different language games. So these problems dissolve as soon as a philosopher can point them back to the language game from which a word is grounded or arises. So the task of philosopher is to show that from where this word has come, from where the word is grounded, in which language game this word is grounded. Once this has been showed by the philosopher, the philosophical problem does not arise. So philosophical problem arises out of the misunderstanding of logic of language, out of the misunderstanding that when language game conflates, mixes up together, philosophical problems, so-called profound existential questions generates. And as a reaction to those philosophical questions, traditional philosophers so far what they have done, they built theoretical structure as a response to these problems. Now the task of philosopher is to make us aware that we have the temptation to build theory as a reaction to philosophical problems. So we need to overcome it, and at the same time we should not contribute any more to the theoretical structure so far has been built as a reaction to different philosophical problem. We need to stop doing that, and we should stop mixing language games, because mixing language game gives birth to various philosophical problems, and those actually do not exist. While as soon as we can understand from where this language has come, from where this question has come, in which language game a word is grounded, this will actually solve the problem. So the task of philosophy is solely therapeutic. In his philosophical understanding, he is saying that the task of philosophy is solely therapeutic to show the fly the way out of the fly bottle.